My mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't. And there are many things that are good, but good news doesn't sell papers, and bad Fergie sells.
She had been working for Soho House since at least 2005.
She built an entire global image on the idea of a fairy tale romance, but behind the glittering headlines and carefully posed interviews, there's a version of Meghan Markle that the public was never supposed to see.
When she started on Suits and she befriended Jessica Mulroney, her status changed.
A version that didn't stumble into royalty by chance, but climbed toward it with calculated precision.
She was one of my Deal or No Deal girls that were, she was a caddy for all of my celebrities.
For years, she sold the narrative of a struggling actress who somehow just happened to fall in love with a prince, as if fate personally emailed her an invitation to Buckingham Palace.
This gentleman right here, that's Nick Jones, the original founder of Soho House. Guess where he's going there? He's arriving at Meghan Markle and Harry's wedding as guest of honor. Oh yeah, Soho was present there.
But according to insiders, that storyline is about as realistic as a Hallmark movie written by a PR team on an energy drink high. Because long before Meghan met Harry, she was already working the right rooms, shaking the right hands, and attaching herself to the most conveniently powerful people she could find.
Once a Soho House basic, always a Soho House basic bitch.
She didn't play the fame game. She studied it. She didn't network. She strategically positioned, and she didn't blend in. She made sure the spotlight never missed her. Every introduction mattered. Every relationship mattered. Every opportunity was harvested like a career resource. And no one knows that better than Sarah Ferguson, the woman who had a front row seat to Meghan's real entry into royal circles.
Many people in this world are lost. It's excruciating to live with past mistakes. It is so difficult. I always would like to change so many things in my past, but I can't. I've got to move forward, and it's very difficult to go back over them.
The glamorous interviews, the teary documentaries, the victim narrative, cute, but Fergie has the receipts. And if those receipts ever go public, the Meghan Markle fairy tale doesn't just crack, it detonates. Because the real beginning of Meghan's rise didn't happen at the palace. It happened at Soho House. And that's where this story gets dangerous.
Meghan has always had this very, very strange fascination with Soho House, very much this weird obsession with it.
Forget the fantasy of a shy actress hidden in Hollywood shadows. Meghan wasn't wandering through life waiting for destiny to strike. Her real stage was Soho House, the ultra-exclusive playground for elites who can manufacture fame with a text message. While regular people fight for auditions and day jobs, Meghan walked into those dimly lit lounges like a chess player who already knew the final move. She wasn't interested in being seen, she was interested in being remembered. Every dinner was an investment, every cocktail was a calculated introduction, and every conversation was a stepping stone towards circles most actors only dream about entering. That's where she learned the golden rule of the upper echelon. Power isn't earned, it's collected through proximity.
Jeffrey Epstein was also Harvey Weinstein, very prominent. There were members. Meghan Markle was just one of the working girls for Soho House. Call girl, working girl, escort, whatever you want to call it. That's what she was.
So she attached herself to producers, aristocrats, billionaires, media fixers, and anyone who had something she needed. And her access wasn't accidental. Marcus Anderson, one of the most influential network architects behind the closed doors of Soho House, acted like the social escalator she rode straight to relevance. The higher Meghan climbed, the more intentional her presence became. She didn't just mingle with the elite, she curated her guest list of future stepping stones. And as the whispers go, at Soho House, Meghan formed the blueprint for her entrance into the British aristocracy, long before the world even knew the name Meghan Markle. But while she was building her ladder to royalty, someone else was quietly paying attention to every move she made, and that someone was Sarah Ferguson.
Now it's payback time. Meghan and Fergie are both exactly the same. People say, oh, Fergie never talked bad about the royal family, because Fergie was literally blackmailing the royal family, because Fergie has been part of the shady deals that Andrew has done and some of King Charles.
While Meghan was busy polishing her social ascent inside Soho House, she wasn't the only woman in the room who understood how power operates in the British upper class. Sarah Ferguson, a woman who has survived scandals, headlines, royal politics, and tabloid warfare for decades, watched Meghan move with an awareness most people in the club completely missed. Fergie didn't need introductions, PR handlers, or curated photo ops. She already knew the game because she'd played it longer, harder, and in front of the entire world. And when Meghan walked in acting like she just discovered a new level of prestige, Fergie immediately recognized the ambition behind the smile. Unlike the celebrities and executives dazzled by Meghan's charm, Sarah saw strategy. She noticed how Meghan gravitated only to people who could elevate her status. She caught how Meghan selectively ignored anyone without professional professional or social leverage. She recognized the hunger, the identical hunger she herself once carried during her early days in royal circles. Meghan didn't realize she was being analyzed by a veteran of the same battlefield she was preparing to enter. And Fergie wasn't judging. Not yet. In fact, insiders say she initially respected Meghan's determination. A self-made woman breaking into elite society, Fergie understood that better than anyone. She even offered guidance quietly, steering Meghan toward the people who could open doors she couldn't reach alone. But something shifted later, and that shift would eventually turn silent observation into something far more personal, because Meghan didn't stay loyal to the woman who helped her.
You know, this is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, you know, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because that she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
Everything was smooth until Meghan got exactly what she wanted: direct access to royal status. The moment she secured proximity to Harry, her entire attitude toward the people who helped her suddenly shifted. The friendly smiles became scarce, the polite gratitude evaporated, and the strategic charm turned into selective amnesia. And Sarah Ferguson, once considered useful, was suddenly invisible. Meghan didn't just distance herself, she acted like Fergie never existed. It was as if the minute Meghan crossed the royal threshold, she decided that anyone who knew the previous version of her became a liability instead of an ally. For Fergie, it wasn't the distance that hurt, it was the disrespect. She'd watched Meghan play the social game masterfully, but she never expected her to burn the very bridge she crossed. Rumor has it that Fergie didn't even receive acknowledgement during Meghan's early royal celebrations. Despite being one of the first to quietly help her navigate the aristocratic ecosystem, Meghan moved forward like she had built her rise alone, as if those Soho House years never happened and the guiding hands never existed. That was the moment the dynamic snapped. Insiders say Fergie felt blindsided, not because she needed Meghan, but because she had treated her with genuine support when others refused to take her seriously. And when Meghan switched sides, Fergie realized something crucial. This wasn't ambition anymore. This was erasure. Someone who pretends their past never existed can be dangerous. And Fergie was one of the few people who still remembered every detail.
I've just been able to reveal today that she was actually in touch with Epstein for years afterwards, staying in his flats.
Once Meghan stepped into royal life, a quiet cleanup campaign began. Not in the palace, but in her past. People who once featured proudly in her social circle suddenly disappeared from her story. Photos were wiped, posts vanished, and certain friendships were downgraded from lifelong bond to barely knew them. And it wasn't random. It was targeted. The individuals who faded from her narrative weren't ordinary acquaintances. They were the ones who could speak about the version of Meghan that didn't fit the Duchess persona. The more polished her royal image became, the more aggressively the earlier chapters of her life were locked away. The most explosive whispers involved the names attached to Meghan before Harry: billionaires, high-profile executives, yacht parties with elite circles, and introductions arranged for influence rather than affection. One rumor claims Meghan briefly positioned herself near Prince Andrew long before Harry was on her radar, not romantically, but strategically, through overlapping social networks.
Her man serves her no purpose. Does that sound familiar? Fergie saying, oh, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Why? Because now she no longer has the use of the title.
While some dismiss it as gossip, the timing, connections, and convenient friendships raise eyebrows. And guess who was present in those circles? Sarah Ferguson. She wasn't relying on secondhand hearsay. She was there during the era Meghan would rather no one talks about. Even the wedding guest list tells a story. Certain Soho House figures, people who helped propel her into elite society, were mysteriously excluded, not because of drama, but because their existence contradicted the polished origin story. Meghan wants the world to believe she became royal through destiny, but Fergie knows the journey wasn't fate, it was groundwork. When word quietly leaked that Sarah Ferguson might be negotiating a tell-all book, the reaction inside the palace wasn't unified, it was fractured. Some high-ranking insiders immediately recognized the danger. Fergie isn't a gossip columnist. She's someone who has lived inside the royal machine, suffered under it, survived it, and learned exactly how to fight back when pushed.
It really is. It's because you just cringe. You just think, it's not me. Where was my head at the time that I did all these things, or I lapse of judgment, or whatever else I'm meant to have done? And it gets to a point where you really think, enough's enough.
If she puts pen to paper with no filters, she could rewrite the public understanding of not only Meghan, but of the monarchy itself. And that's where panic started to simmer. King Charles, according to whispers, wants diplomacy. Keep Fergie close, keep her happy, keep her controlled. He doesn't want another public meltdown threatening the institution he's working to stabilize. But not everyone shares that caution. Prince William reportedly isn't losing sleep over Fergie's book. If anything, he's convinced that whatever comes out will only reinforce the truth he's been living and expose the PR manipulations surrounding Harry and Meghan. He isn't afraid of the information because he isn't entangled in it. Harry, on the other hand, is stuck in emotional purgatory. If Fergie spills everything, Meghan's reputation takes the hardest hit, but the narrative he has built with her crumbles too. And that leaves Meghan in the worst worst position of all. She can't rely on the palace to protect her, because half of them don't care if the truth hits daylight. The royals aren't united around Meghan anymore, they're divided. And division is exactly what gives Fergie the power she didn't have before. What makes Sarah Ferguson uniquely dangerous to Meghan isn't bitterness, jealousy, or a craving for relevance. It's the information she holds. Fergie wasn't a spectator in Meghan's climb. She was a witness to the strategy behind it.
Sarah Ferguson is as cunning and as deviant and as skanky as Rachel Meghan Markle. She just was lucky that when she was doing all her skankiness, the internet was not around.
According to insiders, she has the timeline, the names, the introductions, the favors exchanged, and the exact moments where Meghan shifted gears from aspiring celebrity to royal contender. If that blueprint ever goes public, Meghan's carefully curated brand, humanitarian icon, fearless rebel, misunderstood duchess, doesn't just wobble, it collapses under the weight of receipts. Meghan has spent years pushing the narrative that the palace failed her, the media hunted her, and fate hand-delivered her into royalty. But if Fergie pulls back the curtain, the story transforms into something far less flattering, a long-term social climb executed with precision. And make no mistake, a revelation like that wouldn't just bruise Meghan's image. It would torpedo the very foundation of her business model. Her documentaries, her interviews, her podcasts, her motivational speeches all depend on the public believing she was the victim of a system, not a calculated participant in it. That's exactly why Fergie's silence has value. She isn't holding resentment, she's holding leverage. Meghan can fight tabloids, critics, palace insiders, even former friends, but she cannot outmaneuver someone who knows the version of her that existed long before the fairy tale began and can prove it. If Fergie has this much ammunition, the obvious question is, why hasn't she used it yet? And the answer is simple: timing.
There is no sympathy for this lying grifter. She has shown her true colors. She is an utter disgrace. She is an embarrassment to the monarchy.
Sarah Ferguson has lived her entire adult life under the microscope. She understands how the media works better than most politicians, royals, or celebrities. She doesn't explode, she waits, and she chooses her moment with precision. Right now, Fergie is rebuilding her public standing through charity work, business ventures, and a refreshingly humble attitude toward her past mistakes. She knows that dropping the Meghan bomb too early would look opportunistic, but dropping it when the world is already questioning Meghan, that's strategy, and Fergie has never been careless with strategy. Publishing insiders say the tell-all isn't a hypothetical idea. It's a clock silently ticking. Fergie isn't desperate for relevance, so she has no reason to rush. The second she feels publicly dismissed, sidelined, or unfairly blamed by the palace, the media, or Meghan herself, she holds the nuclear option. And the people who know her well warn that Fergie may forgive, but she never forgets. When someone plays her for a fool, she waits until she can strike without looking vindictive, while still hitting with maximum force. Right now, Meghan's team is holding their breath because they can't manage, silence, or PR spin Fergie. This isn't a critic, a tabloid, or an anonymous rumor mill. This is someone who sat beside her, watched her climb, and knows the origin story Meghan keeps hidden. And when Fergie decides it's time to talk, the fallout won't be containable.
Meghan Markle only becomes prominent for Soho House, guys, after she starts being on Suits and she's introduced to Marcus Anderson. And then she gets more consistent and more prominent work, okay? Because then she could be in the presence of Marcus Anderson.
So when you connect every thread, Soho House, the networking, the sudden loyalty switch, the erased connections, the palace divide, and the silent power Fergie now holds, it becomes clear that Meghan's story is nowhere near finished. The public version may be polished, emotional, and media-friendly, but the real version is sitting in Sarah Ferguson's memory like an unpulled pin on a grenade. And the moment Fergie decides she's done being quiet, Meghan's perfectly scripted narrative doesn't just get challenged, it gets rewritten, not by tabloids, not by critics, but by someone who actually watched the rise unfold with her own eyes. A reveal like that wouldn't just be another headline, it would be a turning point. And if you think this saga is dramatic now, wait until you see what's happening on the other side of the royal battlefield. Because Meghan isn't only dealing with palace tension, public skepticism, and her shaking reputation. She's now targeting the one royal who refuses to stay silent. In our previous video, we broke down the shocking situation where Meghan allegedly reacted furiously the moment Prince William took steps that could permanently threaten her status inside the monarchy. That deep dive exposes the panic, the legal warnings, and the behind-the-scenes pressure her team is trying to control right now. So if you want to understand why this story is spiraling even faster than anyone expected, binge watch our last video right after this one. You're watching Star Spotlight, where the truth doesn't stay buried.